Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com, how to make a do-it-yourself wood Easter Bunny. Now this Easter Bunny was designed to stand up on a shelf or a cabinet. It's made out of 1x6 pine. You can also make it in a variety of different sizes, 1x8, 1x10, etc. Very easy woodworking craft. Now, the process starts with having to draw the shape of this Easter Bunny. I found a basic design on the internet, and then I just tried to copy it as best I could. I'm certainly no artist, but if you use the line, I'm just drawing this on paper right now, but the line that I've got on the bottom of that sheet of paper will indicate the edge of the wood. You really want to start the nose right at the edge of the wood and then go up from there, draw both ears, come back around, draw the back of the head. That kind of finishes the head of the rabbit. Then work your way down. The chest should also come flush with that forward edge of the piece of wood. And then from that chest, you want to kind of arc inward a little bit and then back out, again touching that forward edge. That'll be for that forward leg. I'm just going to use a straight edge. That'll be the bottom cut on the wood. So you do want it to stand up kind of straight. You want that line to be cut straight. After you finish drawing the front paw or front leg, you just follow the curve back on the body a little bit, and you can sketch out just a basic back foot. The back hump of the rabbit's back is going to almost touch the other side of the wood, and then it's going to arc in a little bit as you go downward. You want to leave yourself a little bit of space so that you can still make that cottontail or the tail on the rabbit. And then just a curve upward indicates the back thigh. You can add an eye, which we're going to drill a hole for, a nose, and a couple of whiskers. It really isn't all that difficult to draw. I had some additional detail onto the ears, but that's basically it. I repeated that process onto a piece of wood. It's not going to be as easy for you to see it on the piece of wood because, of course, I didn't use a brand new piece of wood. I used an old piece of scrap that I had in the garage that was kind of had a lot of paint on it and stain, etc. from other projects. But basically, I drew out the exact same rabbit on a piece of wood. You can see that the nose is touching the left side, the chest is almost touching the left side, and the back is touching the right side. Once you've got it drawn out, that's really the hardest part of the whole project. I just cut it out with a jigsaw. You could cut it out with a bandsaw or a pin saw if you had it, but jigsaw happens to work really well for this type of craft or this type of woodworking project. You do have to be a little bit careful, around the ears, but if you're using the 1x pine, they really shouldn't break off all that easily. And just take your time, work around the whole outside edge of the design. Just cut out right along the lines or a little bit outward of the lines. And then the next step after the entire rabbit is cut out is I use a disc grinder with a flap sanding wheel. I think I have an 80 grit flap sanding wheel in here, and I'm just going to round over all of the edges and smooth out all of the rough cuts on the perimeter, on the outline of this design. It's just a very quick and easy way to sand down and smooth out all of those rough edges. Alright, so I'm just working on rounding over the edges of the ears. And these sanding wheels take off a lot of material very quickly, so you do have to be a little bit careful with them. And now the fun part starts. The actual carving of some details on the rabbit. Basically anybody can just cut out the shape of a rabbit, but you really want to give it a little bit of depth. Make it more of a of a statue than just a flat cutout. So first off, I'm going to start by separating the head from the body. And I'm doing that just by grinding a little bit away where the neck would be. I'm also going to add some detail onto the ears by hollowing out the center of each ear. And this does not have to be perfect. It doesn't take a lot of time. I'm just making some grooves. And it'll really stand out on the finished product. I'm just using that curved edge of that flap sanding wheel just to, sand a groove onto basically each ear. And that's it. That's it for the ears. Now I'm going to move down to the bottom of the body, and the lines that I drew for the forward leg and also the back leg, I'm just going to follow those lines, and I'm going to relieve some of the material around the chest, leaving that leg so that the leg basically protrudes a little bit further from the body. You don't have to be super accurate here, but you just as good as you can do it. I'm also going to follow the line on the paw or on the back leg, and then also the curved line going up for the back thigh. And again, this process does not take a whole lot of time or a lot of skill. Basically, if I can do it, almost anybody can do it. I am going to segment out the tail, and you're just going to basically go over the line that I drew separating the body from the tail with that disc grinder. Now, after the disc grinder, and the disc grinder really just did a really rough job, I'm then just going onto an oscillating sander. I'm using an 80 grit paper, and first thing I'm going to do with this is just smooth over all of the edges. I already smoothed them somewhat with the disc grinder, but this will make it, a lot smoother and a lot rounder. I'll also use this sander to get rid of whatever stain or paint is left on this piece of wood. And then I'm going to smooth out all of those curves and those grind marks from the disc sander. And I'm going to follow basically those same lines that I did with the disc sander with this oscillating sander. And you see how fast this process is. I mean, we're just not spending a lot of time on it at all. I'm going to work my way around the entire shape of the rabbit, smoothing out all of the edges. So now we've got the rabbit that has it's pretty smooth. I just really want to highlight each of those details. So I'm basically going to redraw each one of those lines that I originally did with pencil or with marker, but using a Dremel grinder and a cutoff wheel. And I'm just really making lines, just so that it's very distinguishable where the leg is, where the thigh is, where the foot is, etc. You don't have to go real deep with these. You just want to be able to have a visual reference. So that's the front paw and the back paw, back leg. I'm going to separate the tail a little bit, add a little bit of a line, breaking the body from the tail. And then while I'm here, I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to the tail, just a bunch of little hits with the disc grinder, with the Dremel cutoff wheel. Just adds a bunch of little lines, just adds a little bit of texture onto that cotton tail. Almost done at this point. I'm going to drill a small hole for the eye. I'm using a 1/4 inch drill for this particular size rabbit. You don't want to drill all the way through, just about halfway through the wood is fine. And then I'm going to draw where I want the nose. And I'm going to do what I did with the disc grinder before, but with the Dremel grinder with the cutoff wheel. I'm basically going to follow that line around the nose. And what I really want to do is I want to end up with the nose and a little bit of relief around it. So I'm going to sand away some of the face of the rabbit before it gets to the nose, just so that the nose ends up with a little bit of relief. So I do the line first with the Dremel grinder with the cutoff wheel, and then I use that same oscillating sander with the 80 grit paper, and I just go back and try to follow that line, as best I can, and really just smooth out everything. Now, one of the last details is just going to be the rabbit's whiskers. Again, the Dremel grinder does a really nice job of this. You can just do a small arc just to simulate the whiskers. Just to finish it off, I had sanded everything earlier with an 80 grit. I did go back over it with a 120, and 120 just really smoothed out some of the rough edges, smoothed over some of the wood a little bit more than it had been. And then I really just cut a piece of pine as the base, and I screwed one to the other just with a couple of wood screws. I did end up staining. You could paint these things and you could stain them in a variety of different colors. I stained the rabbit itself kind of a lighter stain, and I stained the base in a darker brown. But like I said, you could do it any color you want. This is the finished product. It makes a great shelf display. You could certainly decorate it more, with a collar, or you could put text on there that said Happy Easter. Basically anything you'd like. A very easy do-it-yourself wood Easter rabbit. Please check us out on the web at DIYEasyCrafts.com. Be sure to check out our other how-to videos. And if you like this video, I ask that you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel.